I will now call the December 15, 2014 Blue Springs City Council meeting order. If you would stand with me, observe a moment of silence, and then I will lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. I want to welcome those of you in attendance as well as those that might listen to the audio at a later time. Next, we have the consent agenda. Are there items that need to be pulled? If not, I'll accept a motion for approval.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Quibell?
Aye.
Councilman Levesey?
Aye.
Councilman Fowler?
Aye.
Councilman Carter?
Aye.
Councilman Edmondson?
Aye.
Councilman Culpepper? Aye. Mayor Ross?
Aye.
Carried unanimously.
Next, we have a presentation on the Trans Systems on Sidewalk program. Mr. Sandy.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Appreciate you taking some time to revisit the sidewalk issue. As you recall, back in April of this year, we gave a project to Trans Systems to do an inventory and analysis of our sidewalk system, and that project is complete. I have John Zimmerman, the Assistant Vice President from Trans Systems, here to give a presentation and go over what we found.
Okay. Welcome.
In the 2 months between June and July of this year, we looked at more than 3,000 curb ramps within the city of Blue Springs and over 168 miles of sidewalk. So basically everything within the city's right-of-way that's part of the pedestrian access route. And what the city asked us to do was look at everything on that route, including the sidewalks, curb ramps, and street crossings. We looked at everything within the right-of-way, so some of the trails, like along Adams Dairy Parkway, we also assessed those as well. The first thing we did, though, when we talked to Chris, was we wanted to determine how we wanted to rate these sidewalks. What standard were we going to put against that? Really, the best practice for sidewalk and infrastructure condition ratings is the Americans with Disability Act guidelines. And basically it's the federal law, but those guidelines are to provide the best reasonable accommodation to all citizens. So we use that as our baseline on this project. And what that also allowed us to do was take a look at the ADA program within the city and look at areas we could probably shore up what's been done already. And one of the things that ADA professes is a transition plan, a document that shows where you're at now and where you want to be in the future and a prioritization of that. It also requires that the city identify an ADA coordinator, somebody that can be a go-to person for city staff, but also for the residents to find out what the city's position is on ADA and address any known issues that are out there. We also want to create a ADA grievance process, something that, again, it's a document. It tells everyone these are the processes we use to address grievances and address ADA deficiencies. As a result of the assessment, these are the facts. These areas on the left show the type of infrastructure we looked at, the sidewalks, curb ramps, the number that we looked at. And then the third column is the amount of that is within full compliance, that as it sits today, 100% ADA meets compliance, it's sidewalk or curb ramps in good shape. As you can see, the numbers are fairly low, and that's typical for cities of this size that have been around a while, because not all of these ADA requirements have been in place forever. So you've got a lot of infrastructure out there that was maybe predates some of this. But you can see that 3% of the sidewalks are ADA compliant and 7% of the curb ramps. Those are the two main parts of the infrastructure. But it's not as bleak as it looks. If you look at the last column here, there's another percent 83% of sidewalks, and 56% of curb ramps that just need minor work. Curb ramps might just need a detectable warning strip. Sidewalks might just need a little mud jacking or shaving down of bumps to make everything ADA accessible. Everything that we did was put into the GIS database. So all of the curb ramps, photographs of every single curb ramp are in the database. All of the sidewalks that we rated as well. That's all in the system so that it can be used as part of the maintenance programs. It can be used as folks call in with a question. City staff can quickly pull up and take a look at what's out there. The last step of the transition plan is to identify a prioritization of the remediation. And remediation is basically the construction practices that the city will use to address these issues. And we met with city staff to make sure everything we did was, nothing too exotic. It was something that city crews could take care of in spot situations, or it could be packaged up and put out to bids with contractors used to this type of construction. But we wanted to make sure we also benchmarked prioritization. And this is very important to identify the needs of the repairs and the order of taking care of it. The first one is kind of set logically. It's a grievance program. As folks call in with an issue, it goes through a process, and if it ends up as being a valid issue, it's put at the top of the list. So if there's a maintenance program, if there's an ADA repair program, those are always the top of the list because there's a known issue out there. The next one is called the accessibility focus zones. We knew that the City Council really wanted to do worst first. We wanted to focus on the worst areas first. So these shaded areas in red here on the map show generally kind of the crossroads of where the infrastructure had the most need and it had the highest potential of pedestrian movement and pedestrian access needs. So those areas we want to focus on as the highest priority. And then below that, city services and parks, schools, hospitals, all of these are important civic institutions that we want to make sure we address those first, and then obviously all others after that prioritization. What we're here tonight is to get your comments on the transition plan, and what we'll do is then take those comments, put the transition plan out on the website for 60 days, let the residents and citizens comment on that. We'll take those comments, address those, and finalize the plan, and then we'll implement the recommendations with the first ADA program. So with that concludes my presentation.
Okay, are there any questions from the council? Any questions? Seeing none, thank you for that presentation. That concludes everything. Chris, do you have some other?
I was just going to follow up with the next item on the agenda is actually approving the second phase of the project with Trans Systems to give us a little bit of assistance in the construction management of the program when we pick the final locations. At this point, we can use their staff to augment our staff so that we can get this project rolling a little more quickly. We discussed this at the work session in March about possibly doing this, and unfortunately this project will run concurrently with the overlay project, so I'm going to be a little short-staffed. So,
Any questions of Mr. Sandy? I do have one question on the shaded areas that needs the most attention. Does that encompass all 3 council districts, or is it congregated in one council district?
no, it will be split evenly amongst the 3.
Okay.
There's enough need throughout the city that we can do that. If you actually look at the slide on the left and kind of look at the dark orange areas, and that, it pretty much corresponds with the red shaded areas on that map.
Okay. Councilman Fowler?
Yeah, you've got a good process there of identifying the locations, and you've already got an inventory of them. But for the comments at this point, when we post it out there for the 60 days, there's not going to be any policy other than this. There's not going to be a list of projects that I can see where the one that I'm interested in is going to be fixed sequentially in the...
Not today, there isn't. Part of the problem is that there are basically 3 different ways that we can do the repair. We can do a mud jack, we can cut the sidewalk, or we can do a remove and replace. And as we put the project together and put the numbers to it, that'll determine exactly how much we can do and where we can do it. It's similar to the overlay, that we will have a list of what we want to do, but until the bids actually come in, I can't tell you exactly what's going to make the list.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a resolution to adopt what Mr. Sandy just talked about, is approving a request for services with Trans Systems for sidewalk design and the construction management services. We would accept a motion to adopt the resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, we have a public hearing on the rezoning of the Blue Springs Chiropractic Health Center. City Clerk.
Mayor, the city has the following exhibit to enter into the record. The City Council information form with staff report, including attachments. Affidavit of publication is advertised in the Blue Springs Examiner on November 22, 2014. Application with attachments, 185-foot notification map, names, addresses of property owners within 185 feet of site, copy of letter sent to property owners, Title IV, Land Use Section, Blue Springs Code of Ordinances by reference, 2003 Comprehensive Plan by reference, and renderings of proposed elevations and site plans provided by HJM Architects. This is all we have to offer for the record.
Thank you. Mr. Allen, on behalf of the city.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor, and members of the council. Again, before this evening is a request to rezone a portion of the downtown zoning district. The property, as noted, is located between 8th Street and 9th Street on Main Street. And the current zoning is T4, or General Urban, and the applicant is looking to rezone that to T5, which is Urban Center, again, in order to allow the construction of a chiropractic health center. The applicant will give a presentation and share some of the proposed elevations and site plan with Your Honor and the council, which again were first shown to the Planning Commission just last week. Don't get into too much minutia. There's some questions and comments, but the reason that the proposed project needs to go forward for a rezoning is that the current T4 zone, which you see here under justification in the council information form, is primarily kind of a dense residential mix. T5 is more of a mixed use, still a residential piece as a part of that, but is primarily more that commercial, kind of traditional downtown. So what the applicant is proposing in terms of a building type is more appropriate for the T5 zone. Now, because there is no true second story, two-story type component or design to the proposed building type, they still would need to get a conditional use permit, because again, they are excluding some of that mixed use, true mixed use aspect in terms of trying to incorporate some residential, for example, residential above commercial or office. But again, the first step is to move towards that T5 zoning change before they go forward with these other approvals. So that's kind of the background as to why the zoning change is necessary as they're proposing. And again, you may recall with the rest of the city outside the downtown area is more that traditional zoning concept where you're really looking at land uses, and the discussion there is more land use based and not really looking at building types at all. Applicant may have a building type in mind, but you're really looking at what types of uses would be allowed. This being a form-based code in the downtown development code, downtown zoning district, really it is appropriate to be looking at, again, form-based, looking at building types, which is why, again, the applicant will be presenting some pretty detailed building elevations and a site plan for discussion tonight. So that's kind of the difference between our kind of traditional zoning, focused on land use outside the downtown, and this more form-based code here in the downtown area. So with that, you may have read in the Planning Commission staff report, again, that staff was not not openly supportive of the proposal. Again, primarily looking at that true two-story concept and that residential mixed use. Again, adhering to the code, even with the zoning change, would not really, I guess, accommodate those types of uses as being proposed by the applicant. However, again, based on the conversation, the public testimony at the Planning Commission meeting last week, staff is certainly more amenable to the proposed building type and the site plan in this location. And I should mention that in this location, you may see some of these other attachments, and I'll kind of jump ahead here quickly. Some of the attachments that were included, both at Planning Commission and here tonight, you can see that, if I can get it to look right, of course not. Sorry about that. Can we get that to turn at all just the right way? Probably not. You'll have to turn your heads a little bit. But anyway, it's looking east is to the top instead of north. But that orange color, again, that's the property is located in that area. And you can see here, it talks about live, work allowed. So even in this block, it's even additional specification beyond just that standard T4 category, but is looking at more of a live, work concept. So that's why, again, not just any T4 area is this a consideration, but specifically this T4 area is looking at live, work options. So again, our principal planner, downtown planner, Mike Peterman's here. If there are specific questions, again, the applicant did go through some discussions with staff prior to going forward here in terms of how unique this property is, how it fits into this kind of overlay area within the downtown master plan, what the T4 versus T5 means, and how their proposal fits into that. So at this point, I'll stop with the presentation and certainly stand for any questions before we have the applicant come forward.
Councilman Fowler?
Yes, Your Honor. On the recommendation page, staff does not recommend approval of the rezoning as it is in contradiction to the downtown master plan, but it has arrived here tonight, and it looks like it was positive review by Downtown Review Board and overall the Planning Commission. I guess that's quite a bit of difference from what was in the downtown master plan. There must have been some discussion on that. What was the leading indicator that this would be favorable?
Sure. And I think I'll bring up the drawing here. If I can zoom to that. That was included. There was a revised version of the agenda packet that was provided a little bit previously this afternoon that showed some of the drawings that the applicant, I believe, will go through here shortly. Sorry for my scrolling. Hopefully I'll get to it here shortly. But they provided some additional information, again, with their building elevations and site plan that were not previously provided in advance of the Planning Commission meeting. And again, apologies, did not get into the council packet before it was able to get published last Thursday. But here you can see, again, it's a little small, but here you can see some of the proposal here. For example, looking on Main Street, that's this north elevation. You can see the scale there with that car and with people walking into that door. Again, I don't want to take away the applicant's thunder in terms of what they want to present here. But you can see, even with the scale, it was a little bit different than what staff was under the impression was being, I guess, proposed in advance of these kind of drawings. You can see here it's a little bit more of that two-story scale. So even that its presence on Main Street is more that traditional two-story feel. Now again, there's still no residential component, so if we're talking land uses or uses within this area, that's why I mentioned that live-work kind of overlay area within the downtown master plan. That is still missing. I do want to emphasize that is still a piece that's not been considered here with their proposal. However, if we're looking at form, again, that form-based code concept, the two-story is certainly what's being proposed here. It's not, again, a true two-story. I have to keep that in mind. But the scale is certainly more in line with what a two-story downtown building may look like. So there's a lot more favorable public testimony and conversation with the Planning Commission last week certainly swayed staff's opinion as well that in lieu of anything else, immediately coming forward in terms of that more true, pure live-work concept that the downtown master plan is promoting, this is certainly a positive alternative to consider. So I guess I'll kind of leave it with that.
Councilman Cobell?
Thank you, Your Honor. Question on the zoning nearby. The map that you were, sorry, the map you were showing, it looked like the downtown zoning kind of came to an end almost right at that block. Does it go on all the way to 7 Highway?
Here you can see T5, that more urban concept that the applicant's proposing, does go forward to the top there, screen that red or red color is along 7 Highway. So this is more of a pocket of that T4 where it blends in with some of the existing residential. And so that's a good point in that, Councilman, that showing that other drawing. Let's kind of zip to that. Sorry for all the scrolling here. Hopefully it doesn't make anybody too dizzy. Show that here. Kind of, it blends in with what this is showing. So that orange and yellow is that more T4 concept. So it's kind of I want to say a gap, but it's kind of that blend. And that was the idea behind the downtown master plan, is that you have more of that commercial corridor concept, traditional corridor of commercial nature along 7 Highway. And then you're transitioning into more of the historic kind of urban core, that T5 commercial district in the red there that we already have existing.
Right.
And kind of there's that gap. You know, what do we look at in terms of redevelopment of that area? Some of those older houses on the north side of Maine, this property in particular, again, on the south side. And the idea with the downtown master plan is to look at more kind of a blending, kind of what we do as a fill-in to still encourage more residential, so more eyes on the street, more people there 24/7 in the downtown area, and this was kind of a good transitional area. Granted, that was back 2006. You know, here we are over 8 years later. So it's certainly an opportunity to have that discussion again as the applicant's coming forward with this proposal.
Well, and the reason I ask about that is if there were any place on there where I might be more flexible, it would be along Main Street itself, from a standpoint of if all that residential were to go away right on the curbside there, it would still be consistent, because then you would have T5 going all the way to 7 Highway. I still think the residential component is important, but I just wanted to make sure, if my recollection was right, that the T5 actually does go all the way to 7 Highway, just have that gap there.
Yes, that's a good
All
point.
right,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Any other comments or questions of Mr. Allen? Councilman Edmondson?
Not necessarily, Mr. Allen. You didn't point it out. Councilman Fowler made a comment that the Downtown Review Board voted in favor of this. They actually voted to turn it down. A little correction right there.
Thank you.
You know, one of the things with the T4 that would have been of great benefit is with commuter rail and the high density. We know that that's still on the burner, but it's kind of on the back burner at this particular point. And certainly it will give us an opportunity to get some development that's sitting vacant right now. And the look of the proposed building is very attractive. As a matter of fact, it's a similarity to the public safety building that's under renovation right now. So, especially that entryway. So those are the comments I need to make. Okay, so are we done, council? You don't have any more comments? Then, Mr. Allen, we will ask the developer to come up and make the comments.
All right, thank you.
Would you come up and be sworn in, please?
I do. Richard Hu, 7520 Washington Street. Kansas City, Missouri, 64114. Is this the controller?
You try.
Good evening. Good evening. So I'm the architect, HJM Architects. I'm principal architect. We're representing the Blue Springs Chiropractic Health Center on this project, and I'm here to present their project. It's 6,000 square foot medical office, medical health center. What they plan to do is relocate the existing 2,000 square feet that they have here, 12th and Main, into that space, grow it with additional practices, family practice, sports medicine, things like that, and then lease this space here. So this would be open for more and new retail downtown on Main Street. So actually, I'm going to start with the site plan. So when we started looking at this, we started looking at the Downtown Development Code. We knew that we were going to have to go after rezoning, and the Downtown Review Board wasn't going to be happy with us. But we did try to nail some points that they state in the Downtown Development Code. Most importantly, it calls for walking as the predominant mode of transportation. It also states that a higher degree of connectivity should occur between pedestrian and vehicular traffic. So we've tried to address some of that by placing the building right up on Main Street. I don't know if this is a laser pointer, but Main Street's to the north. There's a setback that's 15 feet back. Our plan is to push the building all the way up to that setback line, so we can, create that urban, dense feel on Main Street, on the street with the sidewalk right there. The building, there will be building access from Main Street. The parallel parking on Main Street will be, the existing parking will remain, so patients can park there and enter from Main. You'll have that busyness along Main Street. There's also a separate parking lot in the back here, and and in addition to that, the entrance is off of 8th Street and not off Main. So we're not creating any extra turns on Main Street. We're directing all the traffic up that street. We're using existing curb cuts that are there for the old bank, the old teller business that was there. So that keeps a lot of the car traffic off of Main Street, with the turning, and it keeps it pedestrian friendly. It allows us to have patients be dropped off in the back safely, because a lot of the people are there seeking care, health care, and they may not walk well, so they could be dropped off. Plenty of parking in the back. All the parking, the entire parking lot back there is screened by the building, so you don't see the huge lot from Main Street. So it's kind of it hides it back there. And that lobby component, which is the long red piece there that bisects the longer rectangular piece, connects Main Street with the parking lot, so people can kind of come in and get dropped off, maybe check in, and then go back out onto Main Street and wander around if they can or if they want. The other plan is to use there's a tax abatement opportunity to develop the land, bury the power lines, and just make it a nicer area back there. Plans to have some landscaping and such. And then the other part of the code says to abide by a higher standard of design and construction. So again, we're using opportunities like the tax abatement to make the parking lot nicer. Materials for the building would be brick and stone primarily, with glass. I had no idea what the Public Works building looked like when I came up with the sketch, and so I assume that since it looks like a building that you've approved, that you might like this. The other thing we've done, because we know that the T4 was required two-story. We tried to make this as vertical as we could, so it's a little bit taller than a standard one-story. We've gone with taller, thinner elements like the window elements and the brick, and tried to give it some verticality so it looks taller. And it just keeps with that dense urban feel. So that's the conclusion of my presentation.
Any questions from council? Councilman Fowler?
Yes, you mentioned tax abatement, so are you applying for economic incentives with this proposal?
I think the tax abatement is only for developing the property, not for the building itself, but just to bury some power lines in the back. But we just started looking at that, so.
Okay, I know that's one of the things we've certainly asked staff before, is that any proposal be brought with all the incentive conditions, because we've done situations where we've approved things and then all of a sudden we find out somebody wanted a tax incentive. So I guess I'm after a yes or a no.
Not for the building. I wasn't aware that it could be used for the building.
Well, I don't know that it can be used for the building either, but if
the
you're
way
gonna
that the way that I read it, it couldn't be used for the building, but it could be used to improve the property. So like burying power lines.
Let me ask Mr. Allen, is the properties on that overlay program is subject to 353s? Is that what he's talking about? 353?
That's correct, Your Honor. I think we just looked at 353 tax abatement. Again, like you're saying, I think we're just considering for some of the site improvements.
Yeah.
At this point, so. And then, tonight is just the rezoning.
Yep.
There's no other financial incentives or anything else under consideration, so.
That would be brought to us at a later time if they're asking for a tax incentive. Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. That answer your question, Councilman Fowler?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak in support of? In support of, come up and be sworn in, please.
Yes, I do. My name is Frances Hose. I live at 1400 Northwest Cedar Court, Grain Valley, Missouri. Not by my choice, my husband's choice. We do have property in town also. I'm here really just, I'm the president of the Historical Society, and I'm also on the Historical Preservation Commission. I was into a lot of those meetings when they happened because I lived on Main Street, and I'm for most of what they have proposed. But this building coming along has, to me, in my opinion, added a lot to the look of Main Street. If you look down Main Street, when you turn onto Main Street now, you're going to see a nice building. Before you saw nothing. This is going to be such an attraction. I know that everybody wants a mixed use, and I understand that too. But if you do that, you're going to have about 14 to 16 people added to do a stores downstairs and upstairs. This is going to bring a lot of people into town. With the post office gone, with the driver's license thing maybe we're going, and things like that, you're still going to now get a lot of people downtown. He is going to free up some of that space, so that will be good for our historic district, which is those 2 blocks. And that will help us get retail and maybe not more restaurants, but just retail. So I'm just here to tell you that they have tried real hard to make this look 2-story. It is very much similar to the building being built, and really the renovated bank building, if you look at it, is kind of similar to that too. And that was the era that was built back in Blue Springs, because we had the fire and everything was destroyed that was really older. So I'm just here as asking you all to change this and let them build the building. Thank you.
Are there any questions, council, from Ms. Holes? All right, thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Swope, would you come up and be sworn in?
I do. Clay Swope's my name. Basically, I think I overshot when I spoke before the zoning the other night, but just the things that come to my mind is our first office has been 40 years ago on Main Street there, so we've hung around that community for quite a while. And the point that really comes to my mind is I did see the last building that had a big dollar investment and was a big building on Main Street. That was 40 years ago. Now, since then, we've had the overlay, we've had a lot of things, and if you turn off 7 on Main coming towards our inner city part, the City Hall and various things, it's not real eye appealing. And I think this would help, I don't know what the descriptive word is, people coming to the community to see we do have some good investments. And it is very expensive what Pat's proposed to do here. So it isn't like a small investment. But I think after 40 years, we could stand another nice building on Main Street. 40 years is long enough to wait. And then back to the overlay, I did 7, 8 years ago, I believe is when that come into being. Does somebody know? Close to that. Main Street looked just like it does today, 7, 8 years ago. And I did bring this point out. If the overlay had been adhered to, we would be in a house here, because this is supposed to all be houses here where this building is now. So that, and the last thing is where we're kind of close there from Goldsworthy's practice now. We see a lot of the people, and I spend a lot of time on the bench in front because that's my supervision job. You see a lot of wheelchairs, you see a lot of walkers, you see a lot of crutches, canes and stuff. So with the type of clientele he has, I think they've laid out something to accommodate what he's investing this money and time to spend. Ted, Kent back there has the last building that was built 40 years ago. And I can't think of anything. If you have a question, I'll try to think of an answer.
Any questions, Mr. Swope? Seeing none, thank you. Anybody else want to come speak in support of?
I do. 708 Southwest 17th Street. And my name is Goldie Gefeller, even though everybody calls me Susie. I just want to remind everybody to think about our young people and us old people that can benefit from this building, because it's not going to be just a chiropractic office. I believe you probably know that. There will be sports doctors and therapists and the other people in this building that would sure help. And we've got all these kids in sports nowadays from the time they're about 5, if not before, that's always getting hurt. And I'd much rather see the kids come here in town where it's easy to get them to, and parents don't have to drive to Olathe or North Kansas City or somewhere with them, because when they get injured, they aren't very good to live with. They're kind of little grumpy things. And also the main 2 blocks of Blue Springs is basically what's left from Old Town, and I think this building could fit in, being our bank looks similar, and now the police station's going to look like that, and we still will keep the old part. Even though I'm on the Historic Preservation and Historical Society, I believe we have to work these 2 things together to keep our downtown surviving. Everybody thinks downtown's 7 Highway, and we all know it's not. So we need to look at this in more than one way. We have to work together and get this where our community realizes that we are here and we are trying to preserve 2 things, the past and the future. And right now, every day is the past. Tonight is gone. It had never changed. So we need to think about this very much before we decide what to do. Thank you.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Anyone else?
Yes. My name is Aston Goldsworthy. I'm one of the owners of Blue Springs Chiropractic Health Center, and some of this is a lot of my ideas going into this building and this new practice. And one of the things I've been hearing a lot of is that we need more residential downtown because we need more people coming downtown to go to the businesses down here. And we're lacking a lot of businesses down here, and I think that's because there's not a lot of places for them to go. When our office moves, it's going to open up 2 new spots for new residential, or not new residential, but new commercial areas there. Our practice also brings 14,000 people down here a year. That's how many patients we've seen this year. Not all of those are from Blue Springs. Those are from surrounding communities that would otherwise not come down to the downtown area if we weren't here. So I think, just focusing on the residential aspect of it is short-sighted. I think we really need to focus on what's going to bring things down here, and that's going to be more businesses, and our practice is going to help do that. So that's all I'd like to say.
Any questions? Yeah.
You say 14,000 is the current number?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have an estimate of what you're going to get as you expand this?
I mean, since right now it's just 2 chiropractors doing that, we're going to add an MD, another physical therapist in there, and then a F&P, a nurse practitioner, which I will also be a nurse practitioner at the conclusion of this, and a chiropractor. So it's going to be full medical with that as well. We're planning to do an injection clinic for hyaluronic acid for the knees. So I mean, there's going to be, I would estimate quadrupling the amount of people we have coming down there now. So.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. Is there anyone who'd like to speak in opposition to? In opposition to? Yes.
I do. Lyle Shaver, 1325 Hilltop, Blue Springs. I guess one of the issues I'd like to bring forth is I think there's a lot more to this proposal than the single what's being requested here. I think the proposal is certainly a very attractive building, no question. But in my opinion, a change in zoning has a lot greater implications than this particular spot. As it will have, I think, a broad impact on our downtown master plan. This was completed, I think, roughly 8 years ago. And as I recall, it was unanimously approved by the city council at that time. And in my mind, what was really unique to that plan as compared to a previous plan and maybe 2 before that was the residential component. What the consultants, I think, told us at that time, we really need more people downtown, more residential. And I don't think that has changed. If anything, looking at what I read in what's going on, and certainly if you look at it on a national basis, more millenniums, more people want downtown locations for live and work environments, mixed-use environments. And mixed use is really what downtown Blue Springs was. Most of those buildings have a residential component on the upper level of them. So that's not a big change from downtown. I think the issue is T4 zoning. And I guess in my mind, simply that's mixed use zoning, and as opposed to commercial, which is really what's being requested here. And I believe adjacent lots on either side are T4 at this point, so it would be an island zoning in that case. It does impact, I think, the future when you're voting for this. I think you would agree the 2 lots to the west of us would be very difficult not to approve T5 zoning on that also once this is approved. To the east, really doesn't make any difference. That's already, you already have a building there. So I think we really need to think, I guess I would encourage you to think through what are the implications. Do we really want to support the downtown master plan? I think this rezoning is chipping away at that plan. And if we don't support the increased residential, which was key to it, then what do we have for a downtown plan? And question of, does it make sense to have residential downtown? I think, as a property manager, I think it makes a lot of sense. It's an opportunity, I think it's one of the few areas in our city that makes sense for a high-density residential area. So, I think it's important, and I would suggest, we have spent taxpayers' dollars on a master plan. If we don't support it, then we're kind of wasting taxpayer dollars. Any questions?
Are there any questions from the council? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anyone else in the audience like to speak in opposition to? In opposition to? Any other comments from the council before I close this public hearing? Councilman Fowler.
Yeah, I guess I have a question for staff. The building that we see here, I've heard it referred to as look like a two-story, and I don't believe that it is. It's single-story, but it's very tall, I guess, in the lobby area. Is there any opportunity for this thing in the future to have residential on top of it, or is it just not built to that standard where it could withstand any more weight or traffic or anything like that? I don't know if there's any options for this facility.
Mr. Allen.
That's a very good question, Councilman. I would probably have to defer to the architect to see if that's something they could design into that building to look at possibly adding something in the future. I don't know if the architect...
Okay, you've already been sworn in, so architect, could you answer that question?
Yeah, it certainly could. I mean, right now it's just ink on paper, so it certainly could be designed for future expansion, but I don't think that's really in the cards for, the business plan that the chiropractic center has. I mean, it's a completely different business running a health center to renting out apartments and managing tenants and, all that and stuff like that.
Okay.
Okay, that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or comments before we close the public hearing? Councilman Edmondson.
If I may, Your Honor, what we're talking about here is changing a zoning, and I sit on the Downtown Review Board. We did not have the illustrations that we've been presented tonight here, but what we have to look at as that review is basically the facts of just changing the zoning. We haven't seen any plot. I mean, you've seen some plans, but you don't see actual physical plans, how the building's actually going to be put together, whether it has the right number of parking spaces, all that comes down at a later date. The Downtown Review just basically looks at whether, it's a proper use, and based on staff's not recommending it because of the zoning change. Mr. Shaver pointed out a good thing, that it does create an island zoning. Usually we try to do something that's continuous. You make exceptions where the properties maybe meet on a corner or some way or another being continuous to expand them out. The Downtown Review denied this. It was a unanimous vote, and I would say that I will stay consistent with that vote and vote against this issue. I would bring out that our comprehensive plan had called for, and I believe Scott Allen was quoted in an article that recently appeared in AARP, that we had a set a target goal of 750 residential units in the downtown area, trying to achieve that urban density. So that kind of reflects on what Lyle Shaver was bringing up also about the density and trying to make it a live-work area.
Okay. Any other comments before we close this public hearing? Councilman Culpepper.
Yes, Your Honor. As I look at this, first off, the building is very nice looking. I have no problem with the appearance of the building. However, the building does not meet the code or the zoning, and I have concerns also about spot zoning. I also have concerns when all of a sudden I'm hearing things about tax abatement. I hadn't heard anything about any tax abatement prior to this evening. I think that there's a reason we have a downtown plan. A lot of hours and effort were put into creating a plan that would be the best for our community. And I'm concerned about setting a precedent. Like I said, I think the building is lovely, but I'm just not convinced that to change the zoning right now is what we need to do. If the applicant was going to bring forth another plan or decide he didn't want to do that, once we change the zoning, we're done. and they can come in and put something else there because now they have the zoning. So I have some real concerns with that.
Okay. Councilman Carter?
While we're talking about this, I'm going to go the other way. First of all, I didn't vote for the downtown master plan in 2006, and as I understand it, the current council is not bound by what previous councils voted for. Mr. Shaver brought up the point that a lot of these buildings downtown have a residential component on the second floor. I'm curious how many of them are using it as a residential component. How many of those buildings have people living upstairs? Just one. And we're trying to get to 750. Okay. So I have that question. No one supports light rail or commuter rail more than I do, but I see it as a pipe dream way down the line. I'm not sure it's ever going to happen for Blue Springs. I'd love to see it. I think it's way down the line. And we talk about millennials. Millennials do want to live in an urban core. They want to live in Kansas City because there's the Power and Light District, and there's restaurants, and there's, the Sprint Center and all the theaters down there. We don't have that in downtown Blue Springs. I would love to get an idea how many millennials want to live in downtown Blue Springs. I don't think they do. This practice states that their projections are to quadruple the number of people coming downtown, quadruple from 14,000. I think we'd take that, and that might help support other retail along Main Street. So for those reasons, I will be supporting.
Councilman Quibell?
A couple of things I'd like to mention. First of all, I echo a lot of what Dale said. And this kind of reminds me of discussions that I participated in back in the 2004-2005 time frame. We kind of have a history in Blue Springs of setting up what we consider to be an ideal plan, and I did vote for this plan 8 years ago. And we hit little periods along the way in our history of stagnation because we just clung to the plans that we made. And we saw what happened out on Adams Dairy Parkway when we decided we would relax just a little bit. And I need to ask a question about the T5 zoning. T5 zoning is still mixed use, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the zoning we're being asked to switch to here, it still supports, at least in my opinion, the ability to build mixed use should at some point in the future, if this project were to fall apart before it actually happened, which sometimes happen, still leaves us with the ability. And this particular type of building is a conditional use in T5 zoning, so it doesn't take away our ability to deny a future commercial building that comes to us. I think the reason I probably will support this is because as I think about what I see when I look down Main Street, it's primarily businesses. And while we have a 2-block long historic district, I don't think it harms us for the entire length of Main Street to be commercial. Whether it has residential above it or not, I think that's good. That's good for the downtown area. I would certainly encourage, and if you go back to prior votes, you'll see I've supported this as leaving some of that residential further back away from Main Street in the area that constitutes the entire downtown, because I do believe we need to build density over time. And you're right, Dale, one of the reasons for putting all of this density in here was because of the anticipation of the rail. I think those millennials would love to live in Blue Springs downtown if it were a rail hub and they could go down to the Sprint Center from here. So for all of those reasons, I'm going to support this project.
Any other comments before we close the public hearing? Well,
Question. My understanding was that we were talking two-story, but not necessarily because we wanted it doesn't require residential on the two-story, correct?
In this area, I was trying to show that with that orange kind of overlay map. Live work is the idea, where it's more of a again residential above, but a mix of uses below. Office, retail, things of that sort. As Councilman Coelho mentioned, T5 still looks at mixed use, but the residential component is more kind of a recommendation. It's not as kind of a hard and fast requirement as part of a project as T4 would make it.
So the denial that was done by the commission was based on the fact that there was no residential second story?
The Downtown Review Board, that was part of it. Again, as Councilman Edmondson noted, since he was on the board, there were no drawings to even really consider at that point, so it was more of a theoretical, if they're looking at one story, obviously that doesn't match. No residential, that doesn't match. So those are the things that were being considered.
All right, thank you.
Any other comments before we close the public hearing? I will close on this note. It was said earlier that when you turn off a 7 highway coming west on Main Street, you've got a lot of vacant property. It's been there a long time. Nobody's done anything with it. The old bank drive-through and the little satellite they had still looks the same way, except there are no tellers and tenants in it, which doesn't do a whole lot for the city of Blue Springs. It was also said that with the post office moving, with the license bureau moving, we're going to be losing a lot of people that would typically come downtown Blue Springs. We will not have those people coming downtown Blue Springs. I was impressed with the fact that you already have seen 14,000 people, and you're looking for that to quadruple. That's going to bring bodies and people downtown Blue Springs to help support the existing businesses. Also, you're going to free up where the chiropractic office is right now, where hopefully somebody will locate in that building to make it attractive for downtown Blue Springs. So that being said, we have a lot to think about, and a lot of times we get caught up in the past, and because you didn't do something 8 years ago does not mean that you shouldn't be looking at doing something today, especially if it has not yielded anything. Councilman Carter made the point. We have not attracted millennials to come downtown and live downtown Blue Springs. It hasn't happened. And again, I've been actively involved in commuter rail. I put a lot of time in trying to attract commuter rail to Blue Springs. And at some point in the future, I hope we can get it. But if we're waiting for commuter rail to have those millennials to locate downtown, I think we got a long wait. And what happens, that property is going to continue to sit vacant. We have someone here that's willing to do something to make an investment, and it is a very attractive business, and it does fit into the public safety building that we're building that hopefully will be open next summer. And it also gives you a flavor of the renovated bank on the corner. So, that being said, I'm in support of it. Yes, Councilman Culpepper.
Yeah, and this probably isn't the time to ask, but I will. The building that the practice is in currently, is that owned? Do you all own that building?
There's 2 buildings. Well, but you haven't been sworn in. I need somebody to speak that's been sworn in. Otherwise, you need to come be sworn in. Did you? Now, if you're going to talk, you're going to have to come be sworn in. Okay, come up and be sworn in.
Yeah. I'm the other Dr. Goldsworthy, Pat Goldsworthy. I've been in Blue Springs for 40 years, and we've had a substantial business there. And we're downtown, where for some reason has accumulated a few more taverns than I appreciate down there. But we also have the Fall Fun Fest down there that hampers our business. And everybody that wants a parade has one there, stops my business. They won't put a car show there or anything. I'm trying to get a little bit further down and maintain our business there. We've been there, like I said, 40 years, but we're also, in 40 years, I've been president of the Downtown Merchants for 5 years. Didn't see anything going on. And people get mad at me because I'm not in the Light Fest thing or the Downtown Festival thing. But I'm not in there because I don't see it being progressive for me. It seems like they're always cutting things out. We're trying to move out just so we can open up for somebody else to do that. But we've also been down, when I bought that property, I bought it with the idea that we would invest $1.5 million into Blue Springs. I haven't seen anybody on Main Street for 40 years invest $1.5 million into anything outside of the city. So, I'm I'm stepping up. If I step up, yeah, I think the guy next door is going to go ahead and open something. And people said, hey, those people don't want you down there. Clay owns the property on the other side of me. Bob Watson was here last time. He owned the property on the other side. They love me to come down there. So there's no reason that I can see that anybody wouldn't want me there. As far as the tax abatement on the line thing back there, I don't care whether you do that. If you want those power lines hanging up there, that's fine with me. That doesn't bother me at all. I don't think that should be anything to stop what we're wanting to do. But I can't get the loans and stuff. I'm not going to waste my time getting the loans for that property unless somebody tells me, yeah, I can build what I want to build on there, and it's kind of a dream. And it's not for me, it's for my son, Christ's sakes. You know? I mean, if you can't invest in your own kids, what else are you going to invest in? I can stay in that place for another 10 years and quit, just like everybody wants me to do anyway. That is a chiropractor. But it ain't going to happen.
I guess the reason I was asking, because your current location would be such an ideal place for retail, and since you do own that property, it'd be nice if we could really
well, the other property,
encourage retail in that.
That other property, I own the other two on the other side. So, I mean, I tried to buy the building from Betty Stumbo for 35 years, and Betty stood there and said no, she wasn't doing it for some sentimental reason. Yeah. Now she's dead, and her granddaughter won't sell it to me. You know, so I ain't got a whole lot of choice. I can kick the other two people out and keep renting from her. You know, she offered me a 20-year lease on it. I don't want 20 years. I'm sorry, there's just not enough parking for what I want to do.
I understand. That was the reason for my question, though, because we do want to encourage retail as we move into that section of downtown where you currently are. And so that would be very nice if we could encourage retail in that facility that you currently own.
Yeah, because I know you can't, I know sometimes you can't go into a different state that they don't know who me and my son are. You know, as far as physicals, because we do probably 2,000 physicals a year down there on a regular basis. We have for over 35 years. You know, hell, I did them free for 25. I just charge them 15 now just because we need the money. We got to pay off them school loans.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
any other questions? If not, thank you for that testimony. Okay, any others? I'm getting ready to close this public hearing. This public hearing is closed. Now, before we have the introduction and reading of the bill, there was something I wanted to do and I'd planned to do and I forgot to do. Sitting beside me this evening, we want to welcome back our former assistant city clerk, who is now the city clerk for the city of Blue Springs, Cheryl Morgan. So welcome back, Cheryl. And sitting to my left, some of you have met him. Maybe some of you have not. But Adam Norris is our deputy city administrator, and he is pinch hitting for Eric Johnson, our city administrator, tonight. So we haven't given him a real test tonight, but I'm sure before the night's over we might come up with something. So we want to welcome Adam here as well tonight. Now we will go with the introduction and reading of Bill 4352. Who would like to introduce it?
I'll introduce it, Your Honor.
All right.
First reading of Bill Number 4352, an ordinance rezoning property from T4 General Urban Zone to T5 Urban Center Zone.
Move the bill be approved on its first reading and proceed with the second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Councilman Fowler?
Yes, Your Honor. Let me set something straight on the record, or that I brought up, and that was the tax incentives. And this is a little bit for the applicant, a little bit also for staff. And that is that over the years, I've seen a situation where the applicant came up and said that they would have an economically viable project to invest millions of dollars into Blue Springs if we only gave them a curb cut. We gave them a curb cut. 2 weeks later, they come back and ask for incentives and say, this project is not economically viable unless we have incentives. So at that point, we asked staff to bring entire projects and proposals together. That didn't last long because downtown here we had a situation where somebody was going to do a project. We thought with some investment of their money as well, and we gave out incentives. A few months later, they come back and ask for more incentives and get more incentives. So after that, City Council made a policy that if we hear a project, that it needs to come with any incentives. And I think the applicant seems like they're leaning either way. They're really entertaining the concept, but I think that's something that we have to ask ourselves going forward, that if we are going to have incentives, we need to see the projects brought forward together in a package. So that was my angle on asking about that during the public hearing.
And it was not for the rezoning, because at the point that they actually bring the project forward, they do have to do that, and staff knows that.
Right.
But right now, tonight is strictly just for the rezoning.
Okay.
Yeah.
On to the decision at hand tonight. I think Councilman Culpepper is correct. At a rezoning, they can put up there nice pictures, but we've seen situations in the past where applicants have not followed up with that and came back with something different. I'm going to have to, voting in favor, I'll have to put my trust that the applicant is going to be forthright and build what they propose tonight. I want to support the downtown plan, live and work. I think those are great goals. We've had that plan a number of years, and we haven't been successful in pulling it off to the extent that we wanted to. There is businesses leaving, as the mayor pointed out, and others. Healthcare, that's not a bad thing to have if you're interested in pulling in some residential. It's an investment in Blue Springs, so there's an awful lot of trade-offs on this, and I think it was a good discussion from Downtown Review, the Planning Commission, here at the council as well. I do see myself supporting this tonight.
Thank you, Councilman. Anyone else? Councilman Edmondson?
If I may, Your Honor, just to be clear that I'm going to be consistent with my vote with the Downtown Review and on the Boney on the change. It doesn't reflect that this is a great project, great looking building, by the way. I wish we'd have seen that at the Downtown Review. I know that probably was not the applicant's fault at all, just a timing issue, but I wish we'd have seen that. It might have changed that deal. And as Councilman Carter pointed out, if you're doing 14,000 people a year, you're averaging about 50 people a day coming into there, and you quadruple that you're going to put it up to 150, 200 people coming downtown. We definitely can use that kind of traffic downtown. But I will stay consistent with my vote from the Downtown Review Board.
Okay, any comments before we take a vote? Seeing none, all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, same. One, how many nays? One. Okay. Second reading.
Second reading of Bill Number 4352, an ordinance rezoning property from T4 General Urban Zone to T5 Urban Center Zone.
Move the bill be approved on its second reading and assign the appropriate ordinance number.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Councilman Fowler?
Yeah. What was the vote on that first reading?
It was 6-1.
Oh.
No, we don't have 8 of us, just 6-1.
Okay.
Yeah. 6-1 makes 7.
And I guess I didn't hear which way you voted on that one. So
Yes,
yeah.
I voted.
Yeah.
I'm shocked I had the math right on it. She's the accountant, and I got the math right.
All I heard was one no vote, and I wasn't sure. Okay, that's the only question I had.
Okay. Any other questions before we take a vote? Roll call, please.
Councilman Carter?
Aye.
Councilman Edmondson?
No.
Councilman Culpepper?
Aye.
Councilman Quibell?
Aye.
Councilman Levacy?
Aye.
Councilman Fowler?
Aye.
Mayor Ross?
Aye.
Carried with a vote of 6-1, given ordinance number 4525.
All right. For those that want to be excused, you can, unless you just want to stay here and watch the rest of the council meeting. You're certainly welcome to do that. All right. We'll just pause for a second to allow them to be excused, and then we will resume. Public hearing amendment to the CDBG 2011-16 Consolidated Plan, 2014-15 Annual Action Plan, and I just did part of your work for you, didn't I?
That's all right. I've got the rest of it here. I'll go with my script, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Mayor, the city has the following exhibit to enter into the record. The City Council information forms from Scott Allen, Community Development Director, Community Development Block Grant Amendment to the 2011-2016 Consolidated Plan and 2014 and 15 Annual Action Plan, reallocation of funds, and affidavit of publication is advertised in the Blue Springs Examiner on November 29th, 2014. This is all we have to offer for the record.
Mr. Allen, thank you.
Thank you again, Your Honor, and members of the council. Again, before you this evening, we do want to open this public hearing to begin the 30-day comment period for amendments to both the 2011 to 2016 Community Development Block Grant Consolidated Plan, as well as the current 2014-2015 Annual Action Plan. The purpose for doing so is to include a public service funding goal as part of the consolidated plan, as well as then subsequently modify the annual action plan to reallocate funds to the proposed recipients of Community Services League and Hope House. If you recall, back in August, City Council heard the annual action plan and recommended its adoption. But at the time, again, there was some discussion even back April and May on the annual action plan, looking at including some more of these public service recipients into the mix for receiving some of these funds. Very similar to the Downtown Alive group, which has received funds now for a couple of years, in order to again promote their goals within Blue Springs. Again, both Community Services League and Hope House are not necessarily headquartered in Blue Springs, but they do serve some vulnerable populations within Blue Springs. So at the time, we did identify the fact that the consolidated plan as it currently stands did not really include a clear public service goal within it, and therefore, just to make things a lot more clear and comfortable, especially in light of HUD and their requirements, we are going through this formal amendment process. Again, this is a kind of a large-scale amendment, and therefore needs to go through this a little bit more elongated process. We were not, I guess, current year's CDBG funds were not, I guess, opened or made available until kind of early mid-November. So that's why we're coming back at this time. We were hoping it was going to be yet in October, but knowing past experience, we knew it would probably be more likely November, and here we are into December before we're able to come back before you for this consideration. So again, kind of long history, just get everybody caught up. But again, all we're looking at doing now is having this public hearing to consider opening and publishing these amendments for the 30-day comment period. So we'd be coming back before you for that second meeting in January, which is actually Tuesday, January 20th. So, or 19th. I'm not sure exactly what.
20th.
20th, thank you. 20th. So with that, again, we did include kind of just some really basic information, the summary there, identified the proposed recipients, and then we also kind of broke down where we'd be reallocating some of those funds. The majority of it actually is going to be coming from the tennis courts at Baumgardner Park, and then again being split up to Hope House and Community Services League. So with that, it's a public comment period. We are going to also hold kind of a public hearing, I should say, at the conclusion of 30 days. So at that January 20th City Council meeting, we will have another public hearing in order to look at adopting or approving and adopting these amendments before we send them on to HUD. Again, there's some time period that they need to review these. I don't know if it's 30 days or 45 days. 45 days. So you were looking, March 1st before we could look at actually entering into an agreement and providing these funds to these organizations. So apologies to our Parks Director, Mr. Doval. That will be kind of skimming off some funds for the tennis courts, but hopefully we can phase that project in as well, starting with $80,000 we'll be looking at for that project.
Okay, any questions or comments? Councilman Culpepper?
Yeah, I just want to clarify. I know when we talked about this in prior meeting, even though Hope House and CSL has their main office outside of our city, these funds are going to be remaining within our city.
Correct. Yes. Thank you, Councilman Culpepper. Again, that's a requirement as part of their reporting. They need to really specify and identify the fact that they're serving, again, those vulnerable populations within Blue Springs. So it's really going to be incumbent upon them to do some really good tracking of these funds. Exactly.
Any other comment? Councilman Edmondson?
Just information-wise, and you may not be able to answer this, but with the adoption of this, are those funds going to be payable on a certain regular period of time? In other words, like the first of the year, the middle of the year? I know with the HUD, you got to apply those funds, you got to send off. I mean, how are you guys going to structure that, or is there a structure to it at all?
I think I'll have Mike Peterman, our principal planner, answer that a bit more specifically.
That'll be hashed out in the contract. We'll have to sign an agreement with them, and whether it be a reimbursement at the end of their fiscal year or whether it's just an upfront fee. So that'll be a contract that we enter into with them.
Any other questions or comments from Mr. Allen? Does that conclude the staff report?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
Yes, this is a conclusion of our comments for the public hearing.
Okay, so is there anyone in the audience like to speak in support of, in opposition to, close this public hearing. Next, we have introduction and reading of Bill 4353.
I'll introduce it, Your Honor.
Okay.
First reading of Bill Number 4353, an ordinance amending Chapter 605 to amend all references to an occupational license to a business license and amending Section 605.160, 605.161, and 605.120 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Blue Springs, Missouri, to increase the city's business license fee, create a contractor's fee for plumbers and electricians, and increase the change of location fee.
Move the bill be approved on its first reading and proceed with the second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Councilman Fowler?
Yeah, the plumbers and electricians, is that contractor fee for them, is that one fee for the year, or is that fee per job? Because they may be done.
Christine?
That's the annual fee, $25
Okay.
per year for their licensing.
Okay. And now is not the time, I'm not going to propose this or anything, but I just want to remind people that there are citizens that feel that roofers should be regulated in our town as well,
Right.
because we've had some
Scrupulous.
fly-by-night type, and so maybe we should consider those someday.
Yeah. Staff, please note that, because I know I've had comments about that, because you have a lot of fly-by-night,
Yeah.
and they're gone, so. Okay.
I would agree.
Any other? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Second reading?
Second reading of Bill Number 4353, an ordinance amending Chapter 605 to amend all references to an occupational license to a business license and amending Section 605.160, 605.161, and 605.120 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Blue Springs, Missouri, to increase the city's business license fee, create a contractor's fee for plumbers and electricians, and increase the change of location fee.
Move the bill be approved on its second reading and assign the appropriate ordinance number.
For a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Just real quick.
Councilman Corbell.
I just wanted to make note, and this applies probably to Kent as well, that this increases the fees that we pay as well. So we are voting to increase what we pay as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we thank you.
Okay.
Second that.
The roll call, please.
Councilman Culpepper?
Aye.
Councilman Quibell?
Aye.
Councilman Levesey?
Aye.
Councilman Fowler?
Aye.
Councilman Carter?
Aye.
Councilman Edmondson?
Aye.
Mayor Ross?
Aye.
Carried unanimously, given ordinance number 4526.
Next, we have introduction and reading of Bill 4354.
I'll introduce it, Your Honor.
Just go a little too fast there. Bill number 4354, an ordinance amending sections 355.010 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Blue Springs, Missouri, to prohibit parking within 4 feet of a driveway.
Move the bill be approved on its first reading and proceed with the second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign?
Second reading of Bill Number 4354, an ordinance amending Section 355.1010 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Blue Springs, Missouri, to prohibit parking within 4 feet of the driveway.
Move the bill be approved on its second reading and assign the appropriate ordinance
Is there a
number.
second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilman Levisay?
Aye.
Councilman Fowler?
Aye.
Councilman Carter?
Aye.
Councilman Edmondson?
Aye.
Councilman Culpepper?
Aye.
Councilman Quavell?
Aye.
Mayor Ross?
Aye.
Carried unanimously, given ordinance number 4527.
One of the things I did notice with this new system, you're trying to keep up with the writing and read that too, so that's going to be an exercise.
That's where that old-fashioned shorthand comes into play.
Yeah. Okay, that brings us to mayoral announcements. There are a few things. The Planning Commission meeting has been canceled for Monday, December 22nd. City Hall will be closed Thursday, December 25th, and Friday, December 26th, and also will be closed on New Year's Day, Thursday, January 1st. There will be no City Council meeting on Monday, January 5th. The next one will be on Tuesday, January 20th. Tuesday, January 20th. Is there something else we need?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What do we
Yes,
have?
well,
Our
there-
legal?
There's one item left when you get ready. There was one more item for council action.
Okay, before I close it, huh?
Before you close it,
After
please.
mayoral announcements, we're going to go to that?
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay. Now, the next on, well, there is one other, before I go to Thoughts to Ponder, is tomorrow, December 16th, is Councilman and Mayor Pro Tem Susan Culpepper's birthday.
Yes, and Your Honor, today is yours. Congratulations.
It's tit for tat, isn't it?
Who's the old? Oh, okay.
Okay, Thoughts to Ponder. Tonight's come from the lyrics of a long-time Christmas carol. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Now, I will defer to our legal counsel, our city attorney, Nancy.
I guess actually we have two items. We have agenda item 10, Council Bill 4354. I don't believe we've done that one yet.
Yeah, we did that.
Okay, thank you. And then a motion to publish the amendment for the 30-day comment period is in order on our
okay.
CDBG plan change.
Okay. So is there a motion to
So moved.
publish? Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All same sign, motion carries. Okay. Did we catch up?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, now that brings us to visitors. Mr. Jack, would you like to say anything?
Jack's always got something.
Okay, that brings us to adjourn.
Say, Jack's not a visitor. He's pretty much a resident on these meetings, so.
He's a regular.
Yeah.
Yes.
Move to
Motion
adjourn.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, no.
Both same side? We adjourn.